Chapter 20. Facts be damned. Virtually everyone agreed Wheeler was guilty, although the ink-dappled men of the media could agree on precious little else. The story had grown too big, too popular to be contained. Sales skyrocketed as the saga of Peter Wheeler became the favored distraction of every literate Nova Scotian. For the paper's editors and publishers, the need for fresh content seemed to override any lingering professional ethics they may have once held. By early February, all pretense of accuracy or fact-based reporting had long since been abandoned. The region's news agencies recognized the story had legs and creative license trumped veracity every time. Even Homer nods occasionally, and the normally truth-conscious Mr. Payne of the St. John Daily Sun was caught in some overt contradictions. For instance, in the space of a single article, Payne described Annie as being 17, only to state a few paragraphs later that she was 15. While neither age was technically correct, the latter was at least close enough for horseshoes, hand grenades, and maritime newshounds. Yet for all his faults, Payne was a paragon of journalistic integrity compared to many of his colleagues. Dubious reporting became the mainstay of a media machine focused on a single criminal narrative. Competing papers still jockeyed for exclusives but seemed equally committed to including at least one Wheeler-centric story in each new edition, regardless of its merit. To fill the void and pad the word count, reporters became increasingly rococo in their descriptions. The case evoked strong emotions, and editors clearly preferred overwrought copy, replete with fervent descriptions of even the most mundane details. This newfound cynosure of the calculatingly evocative, designed to bring a tear to even the most jaundiced eye, resulted in a bewildering display of contradictory journalistic excess. In their headlong rush to wring every last drop of pathos from the event, reporters and editors chose rhetoric over logic, sacrificing substance to the gods of good storytelling. One of the most overt examples centered on some tissue paper. As Purdy's examination dragged on, correspondents ran out of ways to make the proceedings interesting. The evidence had already been reported at length, with witness testimony repeated and dissected ad nauseum. Reporters found little need to repeat the stories, writing only that each witness account was virtually the same as that given at the coroner's inquest, already published. The once juicy details had grown stale and readers were bored. On February 11, the stringer for the Yarmouth Herald needed a few potent visuals to spice up the day's tiresome account. He began the article by stating that all the tables in the courtroom had been decorated with the tissue paper flowers Annie Kempton made the night she died. It was a poignant tableau and a heartrending reminder of the innocence of the young victim, exactly the sort of moving embellishment readers and editors were looking for. There was only one problem: the presence of the tissue paper flowers completely contradicted the theory espoused by Detective Power. Crucial to the Crown's res geste was that the murder had been committed between 5 and 6 o'clock. To bolster this claim, Detective Power pointed to three key pieces of evidence: a pan of uneaten beans on the stove, the unmilked cow in the barn, and the fact that Annie had purchased tissue paper to make flowers for Mrs. Harris's party that evening but had not lived long enough to construct the decorations. The press had reported extensively on the significance of the unfinished ornaments only days before. The issue of the paper frippery took on biblical proportions when Mr. Payne waded into the fray. The visiting correspondent told his readers that on February 8, he had returned to his hotel room at the end of the hearing to find 3 vases full of pink and white tissue flowers. Payne was told the bouquet had been crafted by Annie Kempton in the hours before she was murdered. Cloistered in his jail cell, Peter Wheeler read Payne's account and took his new friend to task, joking that the few sheets of paper Annie purchased must have been like the loaves and fishes, miraculously replicating in order to fashion all of the flowers attributed to Annie from that night. To those possessing a keen eye and the necessary inclination, the conflicted reporting was glaringly obvious. To readers consuming the reportage without question, the contradictions passed without notice or comment. It was the unheralded dawn of a lamentable new reality, a journalistic morass more interested in entertaining than informing the public.